What's up? A to Z Sports Live on a Friday. Glad to have everybody along. Richie in the chat says, okay, it's not pre-recorded. Austin's mentioning likes. Yep, we are not pre-recorded on this Friday. Unlike last Friday, which Jack was pretty hilarious for me, at least. I know like you were traveling last weekend. I had some things going on. Zach was traveling last weekend. Sam's been traveling. So we couldn't do anything live last Friday. And so we pre-recorded the show, but for about 40 minutes, most of you guys didn't pick up on it. So we are live again. Probably not going to pre-record a show for a very, very long time here as we get deeper into the Titans offseason. And Jack, today on the show, we're discussing the Titans starting jobs that are up for grabs because I think there's really not as many as you would think. For a football team that was flat out bad last year, they've had a lot of turnover. I think they've signed a lot of day one starters. They've added a lot of day one starters in this offseason. We'll go through that. Then we'll also discuss the jobs that are up for grabs and maybe that position battle that we find most interesting going into the summer because next week there's an OTA for the Titans on Wednesday. I'll be out there at Central St. Thomas Sports Park on Wednesday. And then the first week of June, the next week, we've got 3 straight days of mandatory mini camp. So Jack, it'll be like a miniature training camp feel of 3 straight days of practice, 3 straight days of content flowing and a lot of great conversations. And Bryce Erickson says, like the show before Austin has to ask. Thank you. See, if I do that, and now Bryce is doing my job for me to an extent, but Jack, welcome in. You've got a job to do and tell people what else they can do for us here on this Friday where, yes, Adam, we are live.
Yeah, man. Bryce is on top of it. Like the show while you guys get in here. I'm only seeing 11 likes right now. Let's get those numbers up. Next thing, if you're watching on Facebook, share the show. Sharing is caring. We always say it every morning. Share the show to your Titans Facebook groups. I know everybody's talking in there. Everybody's got their own opinions. Let's bring them all here. Let's filter through them. Let's come to a common ground here on this wonderful Friday morning in the chat. Next, if you're watching on YouTube, tap that bell icon near the top of your screen to turn your notifications on so you don't miss an update whenever A to Z Sports goes live or posts any Titans content to their YouTube channel. I know you guys are going to be itching for it this offseason. Make sure you turn those notifications on from A to Z Sports so you get a notification every time A to Z Sports posts anything to the YouTube channel. Finally, if you're watching on Twitch, text that Twitch link around to your Titans text groups. We've all been talking this week about a variety of different things when it comes to the Titans. Today, we're talking about some starting jobs and some position battles that are up for grabs. I'm excited to talk to you guys about it. I'm excited to get into the chat. Curtis says, Jack, can you dispel the rumors that you were really 6'4"?
Oh, I was gonna get to that after the official open. So just hold tight a little bit. I saw that come in. Let's wait till the official open to get that on the podcast version.
All right, let's do it then. And with all that being said, Austin, let's get the show on the road.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered by the BetMGM app. As always, I'm Austin Stanley. He is the maybe 6'4" Jack Gentry, and we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on your Twitter X timeline. Also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. Got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us, and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon or online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. And Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans. You get a quote to save money on your health coverage by using our link today at fbhp.com/ATOZ. So, Jack, a lot to get to here with Titans starting jobs that are up for grabs in the most interesting position battle, the new Titans starters that have been added this offseason in both free agency and the NFL draft. But yeah, let's go ahead and address what Curtis is coming in here and asking about you. Jack, can you dispel the rumors? Are you really 6'4"? So
I can dispel those rumors.
Okay.
I'm 6'2". 6'2". Pretty happy with that. 6'4", I think would be great, but I'm already pretty tight on airplanes. I don't know if those extra 2 inches are worth it from a height perspective. So 6'2". 6'2", Curtis.
I will say, ever since we traded Luke Worsham for Sam Phelan, the height of A to Z Titans on-air hosts is pretty up there. Now, Austin Huff still bringing it up in the rear. Austin Huff, maybe 5'8"-ish. I don't know what Mizzou football listed him as the walk-on running back about a decade ago. But yeah, I'm just under 6 foot. I'm like 5'11", so above average. And then Buck, you, Sam, Zach, all pretty tall human beings. Like, I think all of you guys are at least 6'2", maybe a little taller. Buck likes to wear his cowboy boots to make him like 6'3.5". But yeah, there's a pretty tall group here outside of me.
They don't want to see A to Z Sports on the court now. I'm telling y'all, you don't want to see the big boys out there. There's some height around these parts.
Yeah,
also, you got to have a guy like Austin Huff to bring the average back down a little bit. You don't want to you don't want to be lording over everyone. You got to have some guy that's kind of the common man.
There you go. Gary 2 times says, Austin, are you ever going to answer fans' tweets? I don't know what that represents. So I don't know if you guys are seeing or tweeting at me and I'm not seeing it, but I try to do a good job of responding to people's tweets if they see me. I don't know. Anyway. All right. So let's get into the main topic of today. And that is the Titans starting jobs that are up for grabs this summer. And so really I was looking at this, Jack, and I was listening to Buck and Lucas Panzica on The Zone. And then I know they talked about this with A to Z Sports Primetime early in the week with Robert Walsh about the wild turnover of the Titans roster of you had a bad football team last year and you were replacing a lot of guys, but they added a lot of day one starters in this offseason. And Jack, it kind of hit me. I even didn't realize since we talked about this morning before the show, really how many day one starters the Titans have added this offseason. Let's look at all of these new starters, Jack. I counted 10. You need both hands, all digits to count the new Titans starters that have been added by Rand Carthon cooking this offseason. And obviously Brian Callahan, the new head coach. 10 new starters added to the roster, day one starters via free agency, and then also through the draft. I'm just going to go through and name these from the bottom of the screen, left to right. You've got Kenneth Murray Jr., who's getting enough money to be a starting inside linebacker. Calvin Ridley, obviously wide receiver 1A or B. Tony Pollard is running back 1A or B. Lloyd Cushenberry, the best center on the market right there. You've got the two corners, Chidobe Awuzie, bottom right corner, and then L'Jarius Sneed, who was traded for in the top left. Then you get the 7th overall pick, J.C. Latham, next to the 38th overall pick, Devondre Sweat, another veteran addition on the D-line, and Sebastian Joseph Day, another Charger from the defense coming over, and then signing Tyler Boyd to round out the new starters. That's 10. That's pretty damn close to half of 22 starters, offense and defense combined, the Titans have added. I think it's a pretty impressive haul to flip a team's roster like that, which is why I think a lot of national folks are sleeping on the Titans. Not to get into the DeAndre Hopkins comment again, but sleeping on the Titans and being a top 5 draft pick going into the next offseason. But pretty impressive haul there by Rand Carthon, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Eric Gray, Ty Zentner. I don't know if you want to include him because he did play 5 games for the Titans last year, but he's going to be starting the season most likely. What did I say?
You said Eric Gray. You keep getting him confused with Memphis Great, former Tennessee Vol running back that transferred to Oklahoma, who now I think is a New York Football Giant, Eric Gray, running back.
Yeah, I think you're right. I know. I've done that multiple times. Anyways. So look, an impressive offseason from Rand Carthon, but having so many new starters come in, also means might take them a little while to find their sea legs. But at the same time, this is a Titans roster that had so many cracks and so many holes that they had to go out and find 10 new starters just to be competitive within the division again. I think that they found, the right fits at a lot of these spots while also staying within the budget and not overpaying for certain guys at certain positions. So, it's hard not to love the offseason the Titans have put together. And I think Titans fans appreciate it just because, look, I don't think that anybody expected them to go out and find 10 starters this offseason. I think that some Titans fans were like, okay, well, we'll kick the can down the road. We'll figure it out on offense. And then we'll kind of build around what we learn in 2024. Like, we'll figure out what we have in 2024, then bring in the supplemental pieces. Well, Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan said, to hell with that idea. Let's just bring in everybody now and figure it out ASAP, because there isn't any time to waste in this division, especially when you have a quarterback on a rookie contract.
Yeah, without a doubt. And so I think you look at the 10 veterans, well, I guess 8 veterans and 2 rookies. Look, you draft the 38th overall twice in the first 38 picks, and you're a bad football team, you're likely to add guys who will be day one starters. And I think T'Vondre Sweat is a day one starter as the main nose tackle if the Titans are playing 3 big defensive linemen, because I think those starters across the D line with their hand in the dirt, I think you have T'Vondre Sweat in the middle next to Jeffrey Simmons and Sebastian Joseph Day, who you see wearing the C patch on this Chargers uniform from last year. I think is kind of the Danico Autry replacement on as the third piece on that defensive line. And then you have the 2 corners on the outside in Chidobe Awuzie and also L'Jarius Sneed, and then Kenneth Murray as an inside linebacker. And that right there, that's 5 new starters on defense to go along with 2 new offensive linemen, a running back, and 2 wide receivers. And you look at where the Titans are at. Like, you knew Will Levis was going to be the main guy. You knew Peter Skoronski was going to be involved in the starting lineup, and DeAndre Hopkins right there. Then you look at Chig Okonkwo, who's another returning guy from last year's roster that you want to see continue to develop going into the 3rd year of his NFL career. And so there's right there 5 offense new additions plus 4 guys right there. And then you look at the defensive side, you have Amani Hooker you believe in, you have Jeffrey Simmons you believe in. Outside of that, where's your depth in Roger McCreary? If you're counting nickel as 3 cornerbacks, I believe you feel very good about Roger McCreary. So, Jack, let's go ahead and get into this question. I kind of teased a little bit right there. How many Titans starting jobs are up for grabs this offseason? How many Titans starting jobs are up for grabs this offseason? You mentioned Ty Zentner, who is currently punting in place of Ryan Stonehouse, still recovering from his injury. So maybe throw some special teams in there too. How many Titans starting jobs are currently up for grabs this summer? So we'll get to all of you and your comments here shortly. But first, I want to tell you guys all about Holiday World and Splash and Safari. It's a holiday weekend, which means Holiday World is a great spot for you to go spend that family fun this summer. Summer 2024, new rides like Good Gravy's roller coaster at Holiday World Splash and Safari, an award-winning water park up there just a couple hours north of downtown Nashville in Santa Claus, Indiana. Holiday World family fun just a couple hours away with top-ranked roller coasters, brand new rides, the nation's first ever launched water coaster as well. Get the summer started with the best savings online at holidayworld.com, where there's always free parking, free soft drink, and free sunscreen. Once again, get your tickets for family fun this summer at holidayworld.com.
BetMGM.com, new users sign up, download the app, use our bonus code A to Z Sports, and you'll receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. I won a little pizza money last night on the SEC baseball tournament. That's been a really fun event. If you're just looking for background noise during your day, there's going to be a couple more good games today. But download BetMGM, get in the game with BetMGM, and use our bonus code A to Z Sports and cash in on this offer and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses.
All right, Jack, I will send you to the chat on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We need more likes on the show. Like, really. Like, the likes are lacking here. I know it's a holiday weekend. People are maybe doing other things, routines changing, and high school graduations all over the place. So people got other things going on. But we need more likes on the show. So hit that like button if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And congrats to all those high school graduates that are throwing those caps up in the air this weekend, or if they've already done it. But Jack, how many Titans starting jobs are up for grabs? I will send you to the chat to see what people are saying here. How many Titans starting jobs up for grabs this summer?
5 from Lou Man, 4, 5. Jeff Rubel says at least 3. Left tackle, right tackle, safety. Rashid says 7. Curtis says 5 to 8. Bork's got a Brad Calipari mentality, earned not given. He thinks 18 starting spots are up for grabs. Richie says 3. Sports fans.
Who are the
5.
4 that aren't? If 18 starting jobs are open, like who are the 4 that are not? And what a Brad Calipari reference, Jack?
Oh yeah, he's got that. Yeah, Brad Calipari. Let's see. Rooney Glover says 3. Darren's at 5. Edub's not sold on Chig at tight end. Steve and Denise both say 4. Darius says right guard, right tackle, return man, safety. So that's about 5 from him. Grim Jim thinks it's 8. 4 from Tiffany. We've got Dr. David with 6, along with Darren. 4 from Jackson Davis. 3 from John. We've got 3 from Titans Kyle. 4 from Nick Ewing. 3 right tackle or running back, middle linebacker, safety, wide receiver, 4 right guard, right tackle, O-line,
right.
or excuse me.
Let's address the running back here because I saw Curtis led with running back. We talked about this briefly yesterday. I don't think it matters who the starter is at running back. I think the Titans have 2 capable starting running backs. And so, in my opinion, that is a rotational starter. So, therefore, the starting running back job is not up for grabs because it is both Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. Like in college, this is a great college depth chart thing, right? Like Jim Harbaugh was the freaking worst at this. He would be like, starting running back, player A or player B or player C. And he's like, oh, I got 3 starters at running back and 3 starters at left tackle and 2 starters at right guard. And it's like that's a true college depth chart style is starting running back is Tony Pollard and or Tajay Spears. So I don't think running back starting job is up for grabs.
It's the most frustrating thing about college depth charts by a mile. Right? Or, I mean, it's such a cop-out. Just announce who the starter is. Everyone knows it, including yourself.
And I'll also say this, because Curtis brings up right there, too. Did you lose Curtis' comment? Okay. He says, wide receiver 4 and fullback. 1, there is not a fullback on the roster. So there is not a starting job available for a fullback. And 2, wide receiver 4 is not a starter.
Mm-hmm.
I think in this offense, wide receiver 3 is a starter. Wide receiver 4 is not a starter. So starting jobs up for grabs. 1, the fullback doesn't exist, and wide receiver 4 doesn't start. So just tossing those.
Yeah, but I sure do miss Ahmad Hall. All right, Austin, my answer is going to be 5 starting spots available, and the reason why it's 5 is I kind of combine punt returner and kick returner. I think there's a chance there that's the same player. In that role. I've got right tackle up for grabs, right guard, middle linebacker, free safety, who, and that's a position where I don't think the starter's on the roster yet. We mentioned Rand Carthon's brought in 10 starters. He's not done. He's got to go out there and get a free safety. And there's a couple out there that could really help this defense kind of finalize what has been a really productive offseason. And then I've got the return man. I think that's going to be Jaquan Jackson. You got to figure out the right side of your offensive line. You got to figure out who's going to be at right tackle. You got to figure out who's going to be at right guard. Once you do that, I start to feel a little bit more comfortable about this roster, especially up in the trenches. Next is middle linebacker, and that's a spot where you've got Cedric Gray, you've got Jack Gibbons, Otis Reese is back there as well, who can compete for this job. Cedric Gray's a 4th-round rookie, man. I mean, sure, we've heard him, say that he's comfortable wearing the green dot. We know what he's done in college. He's got good range. He does all the right things, but you've still got to go up and compete against Jack Gibbons, who started in this league. And I understand, he's an undrafted free agent, maybe a little slow. Fans may not be in love with him, but you still got to beat that dude out. So that's going to be a battle that I hope Cedric Gray wins convincingly, because that means the Titans are going to have a really solid second level of their defense if he can do that. Free safety, just mentioned, maybe a Justin Simmons situation. And then the return man. I think Jaquan Jackson's going to fill both of those roles. It'd be nice if you could have, Jackson on kickoffs and maybe have somebody else on punt returns. But right now, there isn't really a player on this roster, unless, UDFA comes up and surprises me, that I trust fielding either of those. Too many fumbles in that department.
Yeah.
You've heard Mike Vrabel, Rand Carthon, they've had conversations about it. These issues are well documented and date all the way back really to Darius Raynaud. So it's been a long, brutal winter for the Titans in the return man spot, but I do think that job is wide open. Although I do believe Jaquan Jackson has an edge early on.
All right, so your final answer is 5 open jobs, starting jobs for the Titans this summer. Go through the 5 positions again.
Right tackle, right guard, middle linebacker, free safety, return man. I did both kick and punt return man in the same one because I think it'll end up being the same guy.
Okay. All right. So we'll come back to that later on. So I saw some comments here that I starred. Bork says, I was thinking compared to last year's team, only Levis, Skoronski, Simmons, Hooker are set to be starters from last season. Just realized I forgot Landry. So that's 17? Where he got that's where he said 18 jobs. Remember, we said 18 starting jobs were open. But like Bork, you're forgetting about DeAndre Hopkins. You know, you're forgetting about like from last year's team, right? So
I hear you, really, but even that's a staggering number of new players.
Let's look at returning starters first, because I just mentioned I truly believe the graphic that I made this morning that there are 10 new starters day one. I think T'Vondre Sweat as a nose tackle is not necessarily a 3-down starting position, right? But it's still a starting position in my opinion. Just like the third wide receiver, is that a truly starting position? I think it is. I just think for the exercise.
I kind of think it's kind of like the running back situation. It's like a situational starting spot.
Okay, so going back to Bork, so he's talking about returning starters in this conversation. So I think returning starters for the Titans from last year, Will Levis, I'm going offense first, then we'll go to defense. Will Levis, Peter Skoronski, DeAndre Hopkins are the shoe-in returning starters. I got a couple of questions about Chig or comments about Chig. New Mexico Titan says Chig was underutilized weapon under Vrabel. Mark my words, breakout season. And then Jay says, I think Wiley could pass Chig. So I'm just going to say right now that there are 3 offensive shoe-ins for returning starters: Levis, Skoronski, and Hopkins. Now we'll go defense. Simmons, automatically. Harold Landry, automatically. Amani Hooker, automatically.
Arden Key.
I mean, I think by default, they don't have anybody else on the edge. So Arden Key is going to be in there. And then I'm going to add Roger McCreary as nickel corner, because in 2024, the NFL year that we're in, nickel is your starting base defense for the most part.
Sure.
So I'm going to add, so there's 8 returning starters. 5 of them are on defense. And then I just mentioned they've added 5 new, I guess there's probably 12 starters on defense, right? So I think my answer, Jack, of starting jobs up for grab, there are 6. 6. Right guard, right tackle, inside linebacker, free safety, kick returner, punt returner. We'll get to that in a second. Well, screw it. We'll just have that conversation now because we disagree on this. You think that kick returner and punt returner will be the same person?
I do. And I think it has a lot to do with the new kickoff rule essentially being like a second form of a punt, because you've already got, the return team that deep to where you're going to have to make guys miss within 10 yards of catching the football. So it's going to be more like a punt return than an actual traditional kickoff return this season. So because that kind of requires the same skill set, that's why I think that job's going to be filled by the same person.
Okay. So now let's ask the question. Devin's just naming guys that we've already talked about, like Snead and Awuzie. Yes. Those guys are absolutely starters. And so real quick, somebody said 12 starters on defense. They're confused by that. I'm saying, like, you're not going to have 3 D linemen plus 3 corners on the field all the time, but Roger McCreary is a starting level guy, and T'Vondre Sweat would be a starting nose tackle. Maybe those 2 guys are not on the field at the same time, but there are 12 starting roles on defense because of how often the nickel package is being played. Okay, so back to the question here. Will the Titans punt returner and kick returner be the same person or two different players? Will the Titans punt returner and kick returner be the same guy or two different players? We'll get to your thoughts on all of that. But first, the Bone and Joint Institute is where you should turn for all of your injury needs. Whenever an injury happens in life, the Bone and Joint Institute is the place that will take care of you, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Look, I'm doing my patella tendonitis in my left knee. I'm actually going today, Jack, to my first physical therapy. I'm excited about it, in a weird way. I'm like excited about getting this physical therapy started to hopefully alleviate some of the pain that I've had with my patella tendonitis in this left knee that's kept me out of exercising the way I want to. It's gotten to bother me around the house, just doing things, lifting, walking upstairs, whatever that might be. I want to get this stuff taken care of, and the Bone and Joint Institute is going to help me out with my patella tendonitis, just like they did in the past with my previous knee injuries, a shoulder injury before, a foot injury. They've got all the experts right there under one roof, and they've got physical therapy clinics across Williamson County and growing. So I'll be at the Brentwood location this afternoon. They've also got Nolensville, Franklin, out there in Spring Hill near Thompson Station, and the main campus in Franklin, Tennessee, right off of Highway 96 and I-65, where they can do everything under one roof. So check them out and book an appointment today, boneandjointtn.org.
BetMGM.com, new users, sign up with BetMGM, download that app. If you're looking to get off your current sports book, find one with a little more, I guess selection, I should say. They've got parlay selection features. They've got boosted odds specials. They've got it all over at BetMGM. New users sign up with the code A to Z Sports and get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. It's a great offer going on right now. Plenty of action going on in the sports world. Get in the game with BetMGM as I trip over that entire ad read.
It's okay. You got another shot at it later on. All right. So the question here, will the Titans punt returner and kick returner be the same person or be two different players? So Jack is on, it's the same person. I split it up into two different players. Jack, I'll send you the chat on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.
Yeah, we'll start with Jeff Rubel on Facebook. He thinks it'll be the same person most likely. Tiffany says two different players. Darren says it's the same player, so we're on the same team there. Richie says same. Rooney says same. Titans Kyle says same because of the rule change, like I mentioned. Let's continue to scroll in the chat here. Bork says same person. Johnny says it's going to be different people. Jackson's too small for punt returns. Never heard somebody being too small to return punts.
But that's usually where the smallest people thrive.
Yeah, you got to be able to get in between the cracks and find the seams.
Be a tiny target. Like, don't get hit. Don't get, like, putting a big ass person at punt returner is like human cruelty, right? Like if, for example, if Treylon Burks was returning punts for the Titans, he is so big that he'd just be like sitting back there, and there's so much surface area to hit Treylon Burks, who's a sitting duck. Where if you have a smaller person back there, they're easily to shift around and not have that massive target because they're a massive person. So I don't agree with the too small to return punts.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that I do either. Okay, here we go. Rooney says it's going to be Jackson for both. Ed says the same thing. He hopes it's going to be Jackson for both. The fast kid from Tulane. Yeah, that's Jackson. Okay, so
now Curtis also has maybe the most inaccurate comment I've ever seen on this show before. Derrick Henry at punt return would be dangerous. If you mean dangerous as in
for
not fielding the punts, and dangerous as in Derrick Henry not catching the punts, or dangerous in the fact that Derrick Henry would get injured by returning punts, then yes, Derrick Henry returning punts would be dangerous. So not as a weapon. So I want to know what Curtis is saying.
Rashid's got it right.
Dangerous for himself is what he says.
Yeah, the only time you put Derrick Henry back there is on Madden, man. You don't jeopardize Derrick Henry like that. No. Okay, Austin. I mean, you heard it from me. I think it's going to be the same guy.
I disagree. I think it could be. Like, I'm not saying that it is automatically two people. It could be. It could be Jaquan Jackson. Bye, Devin. I don't know. Devin's got something to do today. But it could be Jaquan Jackson doing both roles. It could be two different people. I think the new kickoff rule makes me feel like putting a running back style player as the kick returner makes sense because I feel like it's more of a read and react the running lanes and you're blocking it more like a run play than an old school return play. And so I feel like Tajay Spears could be a candidate to be the kick returner. Maybe the running back 3, whoever emerges, if it's Hassan Haskins, I'm not crazy about overall, but if it's one of the UDFAs, Dylan Johnson or Jabari Small, or maybe I think Julius Chestnut would be a great, if he wins the running back 3 job, that would be fantastic for the kick return spot because he's explosive. He's a one cut and go. And then Jaquan Jackson as a punt returner or one of those other wide receivers that can win the punt return job. I just think they are different still. I think Jaquan Jackson is the only player who could win both.
Yeah, and he's not really going to see the field on the offensive side of the ball, at least barring significant injuries to multiple players. So I think that you go out, you get faster, you bring in a guy like him who's got a 90-yard kickoff return against Memphis. I know there's some Memphis Tigers fans in the chat every now and then. He had one of those in college. He's got experience returning punts and kickoffs. So, he's been there and done that before. They've moved him off that role when he became, one of the leading targets in that offense at Tulane. But look, I mean, sure, Julius Chestnut could compete, but I think honestly, his best chance to make this 53-man is by winning one of those 2 jobs. And I do think he has a better chance to win the kick return job than the punt return job. However, I think that you can save a little money, kind of fill a different need on game day if you have the same guy filling both of those roles. What do you think about that?
Stephen King says, 6 wide receivers and 4 running backs this year. And Nick Ewing follows up and says 7 wide receivers and 3 running backs. So let's look at that for a second. And it's way early to give like the 53-man roster projection. But I did look at, and I've got a roster next to me right here too, because I see Curtis saying the Titans have currently 6 running backs. Yeah, they got a lot of running backs, but you get a lot of running backs this time for a reason.
You need them.
Yeah, because you've got the 2 UDFAs and Johnson and Small, and then Chestnut and Haskins there as well. Plus, there might be even some more running backs on the roster, if I'm not mistaken. But
you don't want to gas out Pollard and Spears in training camp. You need some hitting downs back there.
Yeah, maybe it is just the 6 of those guys. But look at the wide receivers. The Bengals under Zach Taylor and then Brian Callahan being there, on average kept 6 receivers on that first 53-man roster. And sometimes they kept 7. And so I think that's the interesting thing where we know, I think automatically 4 guys are going to make the team without any argument whatsoever. And it's Ridley, D-Hop, Boyd, Burks. And then you look at NWI is very likely to make the roster. Now, I think they're going to keep at least 6 wide receivers. So Kyle Phillips, Jaquan Jackson.
That's kind of the same guy, right? Those 2 guys kind of do the same thing.
Yeah, potentially. And you
I
just drafted one guy, and the other guy you didn't draft. It was the previous GM that drafted him.
Well, and Colton Dow is one to watch too because he really came on in special teams.
But if you remember, but Colton Dow tore his ACL like week 17 or something.
That's a good point.
And so I think Colton Dow is probably lost for the year. Stick him on physically unable to perform and have him on IR or whatever for the entire year and just let that be that and worry about 2025 for Colton Dow. Because if you tear your ACL in late December, you're really just getting back to doing, maybe 100% speed as you're approaching week 1.
Yeah, and if you start, correct me if I'm wrong, if you start the season on IR, you have to sit out the first 4 games.
If you start the season on IR, you're on IR the rest of the year.
Okay, that's true. I'm thinking PUP.
Yes. Yeah, you can start the season on PUP and come back after 4 weeks. But if you're going to go on injured reserve, maybe it's 6 weeks for PUP. If you're going to go on injured reserve, you have to be on the initial 53-man roster. And then you can they make the roster 53-man. Then before week 1, you get put on IR. You have to wait for 4 games, and then you can come back, but you still can come back. But I think he's probably out for the year, kind of similar to what they did with Caleb Farley last year, because of the timing of his ACL tear late in the year. So the running back thing, I don't know how many running backs they're going to keep. At least 3. Do they keep 4? That 4th guy is going to have to be very valuable, doing a lot of different things on teams. Maybe it's a return man as well. So I do think that's an interesting conversation. But all right, so let's go back to the initial second conversation that we had, because we threw out there and asked which or how many Titans starting jobs are up for grabs, and we agreed that there are 4 that we both think are up for grabs: right guard, right tackle, inside linebacker, and free safety next to Amani Hooker. So which of those is the most interesting? So which of those 4 Titans starting job battles is most interesting to you between right guard, right tackle, inside linebacker, or free safety? Curious to see what you guys think is the most interesting starting job right there. Non-special team starting job that we have up for grabs. But first, Farm Your Health Plans is where you can go for a better health coverage setup. You can save money and get better coverage. Zach did that about 3 years ago and got 20% less on his bill every month than what he was paying previously, but actually got better coverage from Farm Your Health Plans. No longer had to pay out of pocket to go to the dentist. No longer had to pay out of pocket for his contacts with his vision coverage that he had worked into that, and saved 20% on every month's bill with Farm Your Health Plans, serving Tennesseans for over 77 years. They've been able to adapt as technology and generations have grown to continuously provide the best options for Tennesseans, regardless of your situation. Whether you were like Zach, at the time, entrepreneur, single, now married, but at the time out there trying to go into the marketplace and not finding good options there, or maybe you've got a young growing family and you need to make sure you have the best thing for your young growing family. Farm Your Health Plans is right there for you. Check them out and get a quote today with our link, fbhp.com/ATOZ.
BetMGM.com new users sign up on the app, use our bonus code A to Z Sports, and you'll get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. Great way to get in the game. There's tons of stuff going on right now. So if you're looking to get on a sports book, if you're looking to change your sports books, maybe change up your luck a little bit, download BetMGM, plug in that bonus code A to Z Sports, and get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses, only at BetMGM.com.
BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older. Tennessee only. New customer offer. All promotions subject to qualification and eligible requirements. First online real money wager only. Rewards issued at non-durable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. And for a problem game with support, call Tennessee Redline at 800-889-9789. So Jack, to the chat you go. Which of these Titans starting battles are you most interested in? Right guard, right tackle, inside linebacker, or free safety?
All right, well, let's get to the chat real quick. Nick Ewing says inside linebacker. Eric Castillo says free safety. We've got right tackle, safety, right tackle, safety. And then we've got a big run on right tackle from Darren, Steven, Billy, Ethan, Tiffany. Troy says left tackle. I don't really know who else is competing with J.C. Latham for that job. But we've got free safety, Malachi, because the starter isn't on the team yet. We talked about that a little bit earlier. We hit on that. A right guard, right tackle from Darius, because there's so many options there. And there it is. That's a battle. Usually these position battles are between, 2 different players, but there's probably 3 different guys for each of those spots that could easily come out with that job. Right guard, inside linebacker, right tackle, free safety, middle linebacker, safety, left tackle. See if Latham can make the switch. I think that he's probably going to be out there at left tackle, whether he's got it figured out or not. They're going to probably have to throw him into the fire because they're thin on options at left tackle. You don't draft a guy at 7 overall and then stick him on the bench, especially at an offensive tackle position. But for me, I think I'm most interested in the right tackle job, because at right guard you can kind of mix and match, and I feel like they've got enough options. And we talked about it yesterday. There's 3 guys with Sadiq Charles, Dylan Radins, I'm trying to remember and Brunskill, that all are like competent, right? Or maybe just a little below competent, but they're not going to be complete liabilities like some offensive linemen have been in the last few years for the Titans. So I'm not necessarily as worried about right guard. I'm worried about right tackle because that's the guy that's going to be coming and pressuring in Will Levis's face. It's going to make things difficult for him to make quick throws. Brian Callahan, sure, he's worked around some bad offensive lines in the past, but right tackle is really not a position you can play around with. And I don't really feel comfortable with any of the options the Titans have right now at that spot. NPF, I'd love for NPF just to come out roaring in training camp and just put that thing to bed early on as the starting right tackle for 2024. But it's hard for me to trust him. And then Jalen Duncan, JR brings up Jalen Duncan in the chat. I don't think he's a viable solution out there either. You brought in Leroy Watson, I believe is his name. But again, not a guy that I trust at right tackle. So I want one of those guys, whoever it is. I want the starter to win that convincingly. I want them to go out and impress, and for Bill Callahan to really trust who he starts out there week one at the right tackle spot. So that's the most interesting position battle, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, because I also think it obviously directly impacts the right guard spot, right? Because like if NPF wins the right tackle job, now Dylan Radins is up for potentially at right guard. If Dylan Radins wins the right tackle job over NPF or over anybody else, then your options are one. Yeah, which I like Sadiq Charles. I think Sadiq Charles will be able to win the job at right guard. That's kind of my prediction overall. And so I don't know where that takes the right tackle spot. Jay says Brunskill will win the right guard spot. I don't think so. I think it'll be somebody else. I think it'll be Sadiq Charles or Dylan Radins. And Jay says, look at his last year stats. I don't care. Like Daniel Brunskill was not a very good player last year for the Titans, but he wasn't the worst on the offensive line. But so I think for me, the most interesting position battle is inside linebacker, actually, because I do think Kenneth Murray is a day one starter because they signed him and are paying him to be that. But I have my doubts about him to be a consistent quality inside backer. So I think the person next to him is very important to be reliable and consistent. Kenneth Murray might be a flash playmaker. Like he might make an incredible tackle for loss or make a sack, create some big play because of his raw talent. But I think he's also got some maybe Rashaan Evans in him where he guesses wrong and jumps in the wrong gap and boom, Zach Moss busts a 60-yard run on you or something along those lines, right? So I think whoever's next to Kenneth Murray Jr. is very important. They've already talked about how Kenneth Murray's not wearing the green dot, and the green dot conversation has been had so many times, more than I've ever heard it before in one offseason. But I think Cedric Gray, Jack Gibbons are your two spots there. And we've seen Jack Gibbons play a couple years, undrafted free agent. It's great that he's like the defensive NWI. That's Jack Gibbons, right? That's exactly what they are. They're the same person, offensive and defensive version of each other, because you want Jack Gibbons to not be a starter, but you're totally cool with Jack Gibbons being on your football team because he provides good things, right? But if your fourth round rookie at pick 106 can't beat out the third year undrafted free agent who's got some limitations, then you got a problem. Just like you've got with NWI being wide receiver 2 way too often.
Yeah, look, I like your take, and that would have been, inside linebacker is the second most intriguing spot for me just because of how important it is, right? I mean, you got the green dot. Maybe we've blown it a little bit out of proportion this offseason, but there's no doubt that it's still an important role to play, especially next to a linebacker like Kenneth Murray, who, had his struggles in LA. The Chargers fans weren't all too upset to lose him. So it'd be really nice if Eric Gray could hit the ground running, but that's tough to do for a middle linebacker. You throw in being a rookie on top of all the responsibilities he has as the primary communicator on the defense. And that's a lot to take in early, especially in a new defensive scheme. I mean, all 11 defensive guys are going to be playing in a new scheme this year. So it makes things a little bit more difficult, but that's what makes it so interesting is because, now you've got a really strong defensive, the interior of your defensive line is really patched up. You got SJD now, you've got Tavondre Sweat. Obviously, Big Jeff hasn't gone anywhere. So maybe those dudes will take a little bit off of Cedric Gray's plate. How do you feel about that? Did I call him Eric again?
Yeah, you must have, because Bryce is calling you out on it. But Cedric and Eric look, you can't spell Cedric without Eric. You can't.
Cedric Gray. That's Cedric who we're talking
about. Yeah, so you must have called him Eric. And also, I think timeout. Shade. I've said this about Derek. I would like there to be one spelling of Derek. Pick one. Either R-I-C-K, R-I-C-K, E-R-E-K, one spelling of Derek. But I also need one spelling of Gray, damn it. Like A-Y-E-Y, Y. I don't get it. Like, why is there A-Y and E-Y with Gray?
I've never done the E-Y. I always felt like that was the Canadian way to spell it.
It's like, everybody, I feel like everybody has a word that they suck at spelling.
Restaurant.
Like restaurant for you. Sometimes for me, it's decision. Decision blows my mind every time I have to spell. And so Gray, I never get A or E correct with Gray. I never. And Bryce says, I agree. We might as well need to get Megan's to figure this stuff out too. God, it drives me insane. Just pick one damn way to spell names and go with it, because I hate misspelling people's name. I feel like that's disrespectful to other people to misspell their name. You should be able to spell people's names correctly. But when you've got 8 different ways to spell Derek, 7 ways to spell Megan, and Gray, A-Y and E-Y, you're making it hard on us. So I want there to be streamlined name spelling. And how is the color gray spelled?
I've always done A-Y. I think whichever one you do, or whichever one you go with, you have to kind of stay with across every scenario. Obviously, people's names change, but I've always been an A-Y guy.
I asked the question, how do you spell the color gray? Jay says A-Y. Orlando says E-Y. Nobody knows. And yeah, Sean, you're right too. How many different ways you want to spell Sean? I don't
We're
get
taking out our frustrations on the English languages.
It drives me insane, because now I'm gonna have to remember when we have to look for pictures of these guys, right? Like, you type into our picture database Cedric GR, and I'm gonna have to guess, because I'm never gonna remember the correct one. Just like I'm gonna have to do T' Vondre for Tavondre Sweat every damn time.
Oh, that's an easy one though. You don't
forget
that.
Yeah, but I still have to. I still like there was another thing when AJ Brown was here. Was it A.J. Brown?
Those messed me up too.
That was Adoree Jackson. Was there apostrophe or not? It just so many things that drive me insane about names. But I don't even remember what I was getting into.
The most important position battle we were talking about Cedric Gray.
Yeah. I think Cedric Gray will win it. I don't know when, though.
Is it better if he wins it early? I would say yes in every situation when it comes to finding your starters, just so you can kind of fully develop them, get them all the way ready, rather than kind of sharing reps. Because, until somebody wins it, the reps are probably going to be a little more spread out. But once somebody does, they take the lion's share of those in training camp, which helps get them ready for week 1. Obviously.
And so, look, Tuesday at practice, they're trying to get Cedric Gray acclimated. They're not putting Cedric Gray out there immediately with starting unit type stuff, right? You're getting Jack Gibbons is getting a lot of work right now. Kenneth Murray was not really going through drills at all. He's rehabbing something, but was still out there on the field so you could see him. And we're learning the new rules for the third field too, Jack. It's going to be a little bit more lenient on what we can say about what's happening on the third field. Like on the third field, you had guys rehabbing like Jarvis Brownlee Jr., Elijah Molden, and Kenneth Murray Jr. I can tell you that. I can't tell you what they were doing, but I can tell you they were there on the third field, unlike previous regimes where you would get your head chopped off.
I was going to say, is it possible for it to have gotten less lenient?
Oh, gosh. So anyway, so I'm curious to see how they are going to bring along Cedric Gray. And, I've heard Dave McGinnis on the Zone talk, Coach Max, like, throw him in there. Just how you going to do it? Just baptism by fire. Just hit him with it. Hit him over the head with a whole playbook, the green dot, everything, and just make him figure it out. Because, yes, that's the ideal way to do it. But I'm curious to see how that continues to develop. Look, it's just been one day of us seeing OTAs. We'll be out there for one day. Next week, the Titans have practiced, I think, 3 days in total this week, and they'll have 3 days next week before mini camps really get going, where we get to see 3 straight days. That's going to be interesting, 3 straight days. So, like, I get to use my eyeballs to figure out, all right, day 1, this guy struggled. Day 2, he got better. Day 3, he regressed. So how does that kind of flow look for a lot of these younger guys? Because we're talking right now about all of these new day 1 starters. A lot of veterans in there, but Latham, Sweat, and now we're talking about Cedric Gray to be so you could have 3 rookie day 1 starters hypothetically on this team, and we'll kind of see what type of mistakes that can lead to.
Yeah, we'll see. Look, and that's I really, this is why I don't like the first 4 weeks of the schedule that much, is because there's some playoff teams there. I mean, at least 3 of those teams probably make the playoffs. And you're in a transition period where all of these new faces are in different roles, in new schemes, and it's just going to take a minute. It's going to take a little while to get everything ready to roll.
Sure, but you'd rather play 2 NFC teams during that stretch than 2 divisional teams, right? Like, if you're going to need to figure it out, stack the division games at the end, which is exactly why I love what the Titans schedule looks like. And I'm about halfway through y'all's podcast on Tighten Up Pod from this week. And I believe at the moment I'm at, you both have the Titans starting 8-0.
Yeah, I can confirm. We definitely had them off to an 8-0 start.
Okay. You can go check that out on the A to Z Sports Podcast Network for the Tighten Up Podcast with Jack and Austin Huff. It comes out every Wednesday in that podcast feed, whatever podcast device you guys use. All right, Jack, let's go ahead and wrap up this week like we always do with good news. We can read your good news this week because we are live, not recorded like we were last Friday. So hit us that good news in the chat. If you got good news carry over from last week that you want us to talk about, hit us with it right here. Good news to wrap up this week. Good news, Good Gravy. Shout out to Good Gravy, the new roller coaster at Holiday World and Splash and Safari. Family-friendly roller coaster, gets up to 37 miles per hour and themed like the best Thanksgiving meal you've ever had at grandma's house. So for everybody of all ages, whether it's grandma or the grandkids, go check out Good Gravy this summer, the brand new ride, family-friendly ride at Holiday World and Splash and Safari, where they've got all types of award-winning roller coasters to go along with Good Gravy. HolidayWorld.com for tickets this summer. Drones show starting soon at Holiday World as well, just a couple hours north of Nashville. All right, Jack, good news in the chat. What does everybody have to say here about that good news today? A lot of graduation seasons, so I'm going to be a lot of those in the good news.
Jeff Rubel says his good news is Arne Slot finally announced as Liverpool's head coach. And NCAA 25 is less than 2 months away. Austin, are you going to get in on this action? Are you going to get in on NCAA 25?
I haven't owned a video game system since 2012.
But if you were going to get back in the game,
this is I've said ever since I got rid of my Xbox 360. That is how long it's been since I've owned a video game system.
It's been a while.
In 2012, I said the only thing that would ever get me back into video games is this video game. Because, man, college days, we can talk about NCAA football, college football all day long. Every, I think, Tuesday, my freshman year of college, a group of us would go to lunch. We'd go to like the ag campus cafeteria that was like better. We'd go to lunch, get a big ass lunch, go back to the dorm room, battle, like NCAA battle for like an hour. And we kept score like the records the entire year. And so that was great. Like I love that video game, but I don't know if it's gonna happen, man. Like, I'm 34, got a lot of stuff to do. Company's growing. We got 50 something employees, and by the time this comes out, probably a lot more employees gearing up for another football season. I don't know if I can swing it, but
yeah, I don't know if your current roommate would be down to play a whole lot of college football 25. She might be.
Oh, I don't need anybody to play with me.
Okay.
I will just go dynasty mode and stay up until 3:00 in the morning.
Okay, I like that. Start with Hawaii, build your way up. I love that.
Obviously.
Just Smash says, good news is he got his hat finally. Thanks for paying Zach's bet, Austin. Denise says 3-day weekend. I mean, it's going to be big for everybody, Denise. Hopefully everybody gets to relax and recharge this weekend. Maybe sit by the pool if the weather's nice. Let's see. We've got good news. Half day off for holiday. So Rooney's getting out early today on this wonderful Friday. Good news. A to Z Sports will never fool the chat again with a recorded show, or will we? I don't know.
You won't be fooled again.
My good news is clean smelling litter boxes. There we go, Steve. I'm happy that
is that a thing? Can you have clean smelling litter boxes?
Great question. But I mean, for this to make Steve's good news, I can only imagine how bad the last litter box was smelling. Bork says, good news. It's his birthday. Happy birthday, Bork. So my wife can't get a random headache later. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know. Daughter got honor roll and is heading to the next grade. Congratulations, Curtis. That's a big moment. Graduating bartending school from Major Keys. Get that money. Little side hustle. Billy Jones' birthday is tomorrow. Happy early birthday, Billy Jones, 59.
5'9".
Good news. Okay. All right. Frazier and Devin Mills were early exits. That's Denise's good news.
I didn't see what happened to Devin. Devin was
I don't know
on something today about comments, or I don't know. Something was weird happening in the chat.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I tried to figure it out, but I just couldn't track it.
Yeah, it was confusing.
Good news. Pool party season is officially here. That is great news. My good news, I feel like it's too easy to go with a 3-day weekend.
Awesome. Yeah. The chat's taking that soft toss and knocked it over the fence. So you have something else for good news?
Yeah, I do. Look, hey, I've mentioned that I'm dialed into this SEC baseball tournament over in Hoover. The Vandy boys start off 3-0. They get a little day off, getting hot at the right time. They needed to get hot too after the way they kind of sputtered down the stretch. But it's really fun. And my real good news though is when the college baseball tournament is finally here, we're gonna get the Octo Box. We're going to get 8 games on one screen, and it's going to be a thing of beauty, and I can't wait for that.
Yeah, look, I like college baseball is entertaining. Like in the College World Series and the NCAA tournament for college baseball is great. It is great TV, and I am excited for it. Obviously, the Vols have been very good the last 3 to 4 years. So that's helped my interest, but it's always been fun. There's always like guys that you can dislike that play college baseball. And then there's guys that you like a lot. And there's teams that you hate. There's like the weird baseball team culture that like guys doing weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, those guys are losers or those guys are tools, but they're good. And you're going to watch them because you want to like, what a weird thing to do. Weirdos, superstitions. But like, then there's the cool stuff. And if you have a team that's playing well, and Vandy's getting hot, which is fun. I hope Tennessee wins today so we get a rematch of Vandy Tennessee tomorrow.
That would be really fun. Although I think both teams are probably about ready to pack it in and get ready for next week at this point.
Yeah. Vandy's like, we have proven enough this week, and Tennessee's like, yeah, same here. So yeah, that's some good news. My good news is that I mentioned earlier in the show, like it's kind of, I'm excited about starting my physical therapy for my knee. Like My knee has been bothering me for like 2 damn months. It got worse like 3 to 4 weeks ago. I went and saw my guy, Dr. Scott Arthur, and got in, getting in today to start that. So I'm ready to get going because I've been limited for a month when it comes to exercising and doing stuff. So I'm excited to get stuff figured out. What all type of physical therapy do I need to have here? And that's what I'm excited about.
Hey, man, if anyone knows bad knee problems, it's definitely me. So I'm excited for you to get that thing up and
I
moving.
want to be able, I haven't done like a squat or a lunge exercise in a month, and that's just too long.
Man, yeah. Well, hopefully that gets back on track. Austin, I actually forgot. I have double good news.
Oh,
The TV season right now. We're diving into the TV season. All these new shows are coming out, new seasons of these shows. Tires on Netflix from Shane Gillis. Watch the first episode last night. Absolutely hilarious. You know it's going to be a great show when it gets green-lighted for a second season before it even premieres. A lot of top comedians in the cast. Great little premise that they have going on. Tires so far is 1 for 1. Laughed out loud multiple times. So if you're looking for something new on Netflix to watch, if you're into the comedy game, Tires on Netflix. It's off to a fantastic start for me.
all right. That sounds interesting. I'm Shane Gillis is funny. Now there's a comment here that would basically start a fight. And I'm trying to figure out if I want to read it or not. Michael, who do y'all root for in Nashville? Vandy or Tennessee?
Well, I'll tell you who's got more numbers in Nashville.
Yes.
Is Tennessee. That just happens when you easier school to get into. You got more people going. And Vandy's, the problem with Vandy fans is that all the alumni, come in from out of state, they get their degree, they leave, they could care less. So most of the Vandy fans, most of the passionate Vandy fans are people from the area who actually didn't go to school there, which is pretty crazy, but it's the truth. And I fall into that category. So I went to college at Ole Miss. So, and the Golden Birds, by the way, good luck to the Golden Birds. The Golden Eagles down at Southern Miss, they're making a run in their tournament. I saw they're always real good in baseball, but so that's kind of the story with Vandy fans and Tennessee fans.
Yeah, it's numbers by far. This is Derek Mason said at one time that Nashville's Vandy City. It is not Vandy City. It is a Tennessee city, even though Vandy resides geographically.
Tennessee fans, they wish Tennessee was located in Nashville. I just know they do.
Oh, could you imagine?
But I know that would be crazy. Nick says Vandy has more rings, though, correct? And he
in
right.
Baseball, yes.
In the 21st century, the Commodores do have the most. But hey, new seasons.
That's right.
Postseason's on the way. Both of those teams could make noise in the postseason over there. So
without a doubt,
I'm excited for it.
All right, no show on Monday. I saw a couple people asking in the chat. Memorial Day, we take off, so no show on Monday. Hope everybody has a very safe and fun, enjoyable, relaxing Memorial Day weekend, and we'll catch you guys on a Tuesday. So make sure you hit that like button before you head out of here. Like the show before you go, and hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet on YouTube. So please like the show before you go. Have a great weekend. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. Appreciate it as always.
Tighten up pod out now.